it's the old computer adage, just kill it and start over, and sometimes things work better.
But don't worry, if there's a problem, we'll solve it.
Check out your hook.
Well, D-roll, Valdo.
Oh, God.
He's coming.
Wait, Vanilla Ice is coming?
Oh yeah, him, Coolio.
Oh, God.
Some other.
So it is his rapping capacity, not his hard rock capacity.
Yeah, he had it was verging on metal, I think.
Yeah. He did Ice Ice Baby as a metal version, didn't he? Wasn't that on the album?
I do think so, but I don't remember the song itself very well.
I feel like you were the one to show me that way back when.
Oh, maybe it was me.
See, here's the thing. If I went to that and he didn't do ninja rap, I would ask for a refund.
Play those 2 songs I know, Ice Ice Baby and Ninja Rap.
I don't even care about Ice Ice Baby.
Do you
Just
guys
do
wanna,
ninja rap.
Do you guys want to go get real authentic Ninja Turtle costumes and go to the concert? Because that would be fucking amazing.
I mean, if you can find them. I can't dance like that, though, so just a heads up.
Just
I might spin around on the shell or something.
Like this. Yeah,
just get up there and...
Go, ninja, rap.
I mean, if you can find the costumes, I'm in.
Let's just all agree and say, yes, we're going to do it, and then no one else does it but Andy. And he's the only one that's a turtle.
It'll look weird because I'll be the only Donatello there, right?
I was going to say we all show up as Michelangelo and look at each other like, what the fuck?
We should have coordinated this better.
Yeah, we should have thought about this.
I can't wait until we're done recording and then everyone's just scrolling Facebook or Twitter or something, and we all just start seeing ads for Ninja Turtle costumes.
Yep. Because our phones are all listening in on
Yes,
right
exactly. Big Brother is listening.
I mean, I search Ninja Turtle stuff often enough anyways, so...
It's not weird to me. It's just going to pop up anyway.
As the costumes go, we know that they didn't retain the good ones from the first 2 movies for the third.
It's true.
So it's not like they got worn out. Those got to be somewhere.
I feel like the first movie was still even better than the second movie. I feel like they just got progressively worse.
I agree.
They looked more cartoony. They went out of their way to make the second's costumes look more cartoony.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they added freckles and shit.
Yeah.
And it was
the eyes.
That too.
Oh, the eyes were a little bit more...
They were both more... The headpieces
vibrant?
were both more expressive, but also too, well-rounded, too polished.
Yeah.
I really hope Ian listens to this podcast.
I should use the turtle intro just to piss him off.
He missed the turtle conversation and a chance to shit on it again.
He'll be the only comment we've had in 2 years on an episode that just says fucking turtles.
But if he's not here, whatever we're discussing on the next episode that he is a part of it, he will make sure to backtrack to give his 2 cents on this conversation.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Brad Guy and his Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Lebick. Joining me for this episode is someone who was able to successfully navigate the Force Maze so we can make it here for the podcast, Andy Stolz.
What's up, podcast people?
Next, we got someone who I can count on to ward off would-be attackers with their rendition of Roxette's The Look, Josh Zorch.
That has been on our go-to karaoke reference list for several years. Sarah and I do a lovely duet.
Lastly, someone who may or may not have practiced some kung fu in his bathroom with the rings from the shower curtain, Mike Bradley.
Why is mine always negative?
I don't know if that's negative. Why would you not do that?
How's that negative? I would do that if the rings would fit around my heart.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That sounds painful. But
yeah, I guess typically they're not as big to fit around your wrist. But come on, I mean, if I could do it, I'd be doing it right now.
Okay. I have definitely done this. Yes, it happens.
I knew it.
It's kind of why I'm dumb now. I slipped, I fell, I hit my head.
See, now you're adding way more to the story than I ever intended.
When I came to, I had a vision, a picture in my head, a picture of the flux capacitor.
Basically.
See, that's how Back to the Future starts. We're on it.
So somehow I became Emmett Brown. We're there. Let's do it.
Yeah, Kung Fu to Emmett Brown. Segue is there.
Kung Fu Emmett Brown.
Even better. The best of both worlds. All right, so hopefully you guys haven't missed us too much. I know we've been away for probably 3 weeks or so. Our original plan was to record our next Rewind Theater episode for Ghost in the Shell. We were going to do that last week. As fate would have it, we went to go see Shang-Chi, and there was a commercial for a one-night screening only of Ghost in the Shell on September 17th, which at the time of this recording is tomorrow night. So a few of us are actually going to go to the theater to see the movie, which I honestly never thought we would get the chance to do for a Rewind Theater episode, so that should be pretty fun. We're looking forward to that. So as long as everything keeps on track, our next episode that we put out probably will be for Ghost in the Shell. So keep an eye out for that one.
Can I interlude something?
Yeah.
How are you guys going to take notes?
I thought about that as well. I don't...
Are you going to have one of those little walkie-talkies click?
I thought about
click
trying to use my phone, just sitting in the back and just putting my phone, dim my phone so I have a sort of a notepad there.
Oh, you're going to be one of those motherfuckers.
I feel like everybody that's in the movie has seen the movie before.
And I'm going to be sitting next to him.
Sit in the back row and take your talk boy.
Yeah.
See, I feel like there's a couple things that work there. One, you're assuming Ian doesn't already have 10 pages of notes for this.
Yeah, really, we're just going to let him do the podcast and we're just there for filler.
Yeah. Two, you assume I actually ever take notes. And I guess Brian taking notes is really the tough part of that.
You make it sound like you haven't taken notes. You've referenced notes before.
Yeah, I've seen you shuffle notes around before.
I have.
It's the clever ruse.
I have. Well, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's oh, check my notes, and I don't actually check anything. Sometimes, the times I take notes is when I have something I need to specifically say, or when something particularly pisses me off. If something actually really pisses me off, I make sure oh yeah, no, I gotta remember that.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't, it's going to get to the point where if I don't take any notes during, which I'm going to really try not to do because I don't want to be the guy on my phone doing that. But as soon as the movie's over, I'm going to have to try to bring up my phone and furiously remember what I needed to talk about or say and just hurry up and try to type it while it's sort of fresh. Otherwise, we'll be screwed.
That's when you bust the talk boy out in your car and just get everything out.
There probably is just a recording feature on my phone. That's probably something I could do. Worst comes to worst.
You could, but then, yeah.
Then I gotta transcribe it later. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Either way, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll see where we go.
Just watch it again at home.
That might be asking too much. We'll see where we go.
You might like it.
True. We don't know. The jury's still out. We'll see.
I'm saying if there's an anime you're gonna like.
So have we assigned a 60-second summary to this, or are we just letting Ian go with it?
I just kind of assumed Ian's taking the helm on most of what's going on for this episode, so I don't know if he volunteered for that one. I know he volunteered for the comic book background stuff.
Okay.
He's going to take that section. So
we would almost want to have someone else do it because he's gonna know all the background shit. So
unless
we want someone who's just superficially on the surface of this shit. Look
at it this way: whoever does the summary is probably gonna get shit from Ian, no matter what. So if you want that coming down on you during the episode,
I'll do it tentatively. I want to see the movie first. I've never seen it, so I want to see it first, and then I'll let you know for sure if I want to do the summary or not.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Once I see it, then we'll see. I don't want to.
That's
dedicate.
The only time that I take notes is when I have to do the 60-second summary. So
there you
go. All right, so for this episode, we're here to talk about Shang-Chi, and also this is another episode we probably could have recorded last week, but we delayed another week to give Andy the chance so that he could get out and see it, so he could be here to join us. So that's cool. And I think as we talked about before in other past episodes, these movie release schedules seem to be going to shit over the last year and a half. So we're at the point where we're getting a Marvel movie basically every 2 months. So we just did Black Widow in July. We're doing Shang-Chi now. And as long as the current release dates hold, we're going to have Eternals in November. And Spider-Man actually in December. So we got 2 other Marvel movies coming down the pipe before the end of the year. So that'll be something else to look forward to. I tried to look up some of the stuff for Shang-Chi, and I remember reading about it, and I was trying to find the exact tweet. Because Simu Liu, who plays Shang-Chi, has been campaigning for this role for years. So the only tweet that I could sort of research and find, and I thought he did one before this, but this is the one everybody seemed to come back to. December 3rd, 2018, he tweeted at Marvel saying, "Okay, Marvel, are we going to talk or what?" And hashtag Shang-Chi. Now, fast forward to September of 2021, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings has been released. He is in the lead role as Shang-Chi. So dreams do come true. As far as some of the background for the movie, so the movie is directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who most recently just directed Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx. Writers for the movie include Cretton, Dave Callahan, and Andrew Lanham. Lanham wrote Just Mercy along with Cretton. Dave Callahan helped write all 3 Expendables movies, 2014's Godzilla, Zombieland 2, Wonder Woman 1984, 2021's Mortal Kombat, and is currently in production for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2, and apparently the newly announced Expendables 4. So he's got a pretty big list, I think, of relevant movies.
Wow, yeah.
I was trying to debate if I want to go through the cast list, because I'm going to butcher every fucking person's name, and I decided I don't want that kind of pressure.
You'll nail one of them for sure. You'll nail one.
It would be really... I get the pressure, but it would be really disrespectful if we didn't try.
I'm prefacing. I'm butchering everyone's name, so bear with me. Simu Liu for Shang-Chi. Tony Chi Wai Lung is Zhu Wenwu, right? Did I get that right? No? Leung. Okay. Yeah, see, I'm already screwing up. Aquafina, I know her. She's in there as Katie. Cameo by Ben Kingsley is back. Menger Zhang as Zailing. Fala Shen as Lee. Michelle Yeoh shows up as Ying Nan.
Hey, yeah.
Who else is relevant? I'm trying to look at other bigger roles. I don't know if I missed anybody else.
It's Florian Montanou.
Oh, is the henchman guy.
Razor Fist. Yes.
Razor Fist. Yeah. I think
honestly, that guy's name, like, I don't really know Razor Fist, but it struck me as like this weird mix-up of like Fire Fist from Deadpool 2 and Taserface from Guardians 2.
I kept thinking Taserface for some reason too. I don't know why I couldn't shake that, but that kept coming back to me the whole time. All right, so that's most of the cast. Currently, the movie is sitting on Rotten Tomatoes with a critic rating of 92% and an audience rating of 98%.
Holy
which is one of the
shit.
highest rated Marvel movies, if not the. I don't know I didn't compare with the other ones, but having both of those in the 90s and for the audience at 98%, that's fucking huge. Metacritic's a little bit more mediocre. They have the Metascore at 71, user score 7.6. I was trying to look at box office also. So the film made $75.5 million when it opened. Ended with a $94.6 million if you count the whole Labor Day holiday, that 4-day holiday. For comparison, Black Widow opened to $80.3 million on its opening weekend. Shang-Chi brought in another $35 million in its second weekend, bringing a worldwide total to $176 million. Currently, it is still not having been released in China. So that's a worldwide number of almost $200 million with not having one of the biggest box office revenues, at least as far as modern movie going is. And I don't know if there's a plan to even release it in China. I don't think it's going to get a release. So I don't know if they're going to go around that or not.
It beats out Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse narrowly as far as the Rotten Tomatoes highest rated comic book movie. Not just Marvel.
Yeah,
comic book movie by the audience.
That is some high praise then. Well done, Shang-Chi. One of the other things, and this is sort of sidetracking, but it's somewhat relevant since we talked about sort of the last time, but we did talk about Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit against Disney over Black Widow's release to theaters and Disney Plus the same day. Shang-Chi did not release on Disney Plus the same day as theaters, so that might have helped its numbers. Marvel also made it a point recently that all of their upcoming movies will only be released theatrically. So I guess it's really unclear, and I guess you could have connected the dots if you want to speculate here, but it's unclear if specifically that is because they have more faith in the resurgence of theaters or a direct result of the lawsuit with Scarlett Johansson. Maybe it's both. Who knows? Also, some of the other internet scuttlebutt that's going on right now is talk with the Russo brothers to return to direct a Marvel movie, but those talks have stalled because of a direct result of Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit. Basically meaning they don't want their movie to release on Disney Plus first. So they have to now, and this is probably going to be the going trend as part of the lawsuit, is any director working with a studio now is probably going to have to specifically put in their contract, no, I don't want my movie released video on demand, either like premiering there or day and date in the theaters. They're going to have to specifically say somewhere in there in the fine print, have to put it in theaters. That's where I want it to go. I don't care what the hell's going on. So we'll see what goes on forward, but so far it seems like Marvel is pivoting from Black Widow, and I don't know if we're going to see another straight to Disney Plus premiere for a Marvel movie, which is good. I'd rather see them in theaters first and see how they do.
So, what I had read was Shang-Chi was... I did not see, like, the press release you're talking about where they said all will be now... Like, none of the further Marvel movies will be on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that, but I had seen that Shang-Chi was different because it's only getting a 45-day run at the theater because of Eternals.
I think that's going forward. I guess I have to fact check some stuff, but I was under the impression, I guess from what I read, that going forward, most theatrical windows will be 45 days now. So yes, Marvel is saying
we're going to... I think that's because Marvel is packed in so much.
Well, I think a lot of other studios are doing that themselves too, and I think Marvel's starting to follow that trend that other studios...
Okay.
Like I know we talked about it before, and I don't remember what studio started that, but somebody was pushing to cut the theatrical window in half from 90 to 45. And then some theater chain agreed to that. It's been spiraling since then, and everybody's trying to find that happy medium between video-on-demand digital stuff and theater release windows. And 45 days seems to be the happy medium that people keep coming back to. So maybe it's a combination. I think they're going to be putting most of their movies into theaters, if not all. I could have sworn I heard their upcoming slate is just going to be in theaters. And I would think within 45 days, they're probably going to hit Disney+.
Well, what they had said was they will be on Disney Plus. It's going to be like a purchase thing at first, the way like they were before. Okay. It's not going to be that same premiere price. Okay. I don't think. But I think just like Black Widow, I think Black Widow hits Disney Plus October 6th.
Okay. Well, that again,
so
I
it's
guess,
like 3 months later. Still, it's going to be free on Disney Plus, but that interim month and a half, I think you're going to be paying a price for it of some sort.
That's right. I'm forgetting about the whole, like, we want to put this on, like, physical media, too, and we need that release window to come out. So it's probably 45 days or so, and then...
probably another 45. It's
because it's
usually
be a
3
little
months.
Bit before, they release it in for, like, home video release and stuff like that. So, yeah, that makes sense. So maybe I'm jumping the gun on the 45-day release.
I don't think it'll leave theaters and then the next day be available on Disney Plus. I think there will be a time when it's neither.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, we'll see how they go. Keep it. This all dependent on what goes on with real world events, and I don't know how soon we're going to come out of the whole pandemic side of it, but there might be enough people vaccinated now that theaters are not going to shut down again, so they might still just be pushing stuff into theaters for the time being. I mean, again, up until, last week, there was a couple other movies that started moving around, like Ghostbusters shifted back a week. Venom got moved up. Like, I don't know why the fuck they decided to release that earlier. Everything else is getting delayed. Probably
to get into a slot they liked better.
Maybe. So, yeah, release schedules are still a shit show, so it's not something I like to bring up, because every time we talk about it, it changes the next week, so it's hard to keep track of any of this shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get into Shang-Chi. So from this point forward, we're going to discuss spoilers for the movie. So if you were not caught up on Shang-Chi and just want to cover our asses, this is the spoiler alert. Also, I'll extend it out there for any other MCU property as a whole. So, if you're not caught up on the MCU, pause us now and come back after you've caught up to 26 movies or whatever we're up to now. Last call. Spoilers to follow.
Wee-oo, wee-oo. Spoiler! Wee-oo, wee-oo. Spoiler! Something like that.
All right, so we are free to talk about whatever we would like to talk about. I think maybe we'll just go around the horn. I'll just sort of talk generally. What do you guys think about the movie? And then we'll get into sort of specifics after that. So, Andy, since you're probably the freshest, what did you think of the movie? Give us some thoughts.
I really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure really what to expect because I don't really know a lot about Shang-Chi.
Yeah, me neither.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I liked that it was very much its own like self-contained movie.
Yeah.
With like Easter eggs to the Marvel universe when like if you were paying attention to the Marvel universe and stuff. So
Right.
I enjoyed that aspect of it.
Nice.
Because I like the interconnectivity. I really do, but sometimes it's nice to have something that's just its own.
A little bit more self-contained.
Yeah.
I got you.
But,
Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. I was going to pass it on.
Okay. Mike, what do you think?
This right off the bat, coming out of it, I was like, this is gonna be a rewatchable experience. It was a lot of fun. It did what I wanted Black Widow to do to kick off the next phase.
Okay.
Of Marvel movies, where now there's a whole bunch of questions, there's a whole bunch of ideas, and there's a look toward the future.
Yeah.
Like what's coming, much more so than what Black Widow did. Where Black Widow had the one little chestnut in, a post-credit scene, which I'm not going to talk about what that is. But it had that one little bit about the future, and the rest of it was with the past. And this movie took it and gave us where Marvel is going.
Yeah.
And we now have a much clearer idea of that. And I thought that was great. The humor in it, the fight scenes, it was just all good. Like everything, I have nothing bad really in my mind to say about this movie at this time, which is rare for me.
Josh, what do you think?
That's very much kind of what I was going to say, is just how Mike ended there. Not that every movie that I would say was near perfect means that there's only one way to make a perfect movie, but I only have 3 quasi-small critiques that I wrote down about this. There's very little about it that seemed unfocused, that seemed fluff, that seemed like it's just damn good. Like it just really came together in every possible way.
Yeah. Did anybody see it more than once? No?
No.
Okay.
Meant to, but did not get to.
I did go twice opening weekend, and I would still go again. Like, I did like it that much. I thought it was really cool. I loved, like, the whole mythology they built up around the movie. Like, the backstory and the lore, all that stuff was awesome. I think it has some of the best, if not the best, fight scenes in a Marvel movie. Possibly even just, like, action movie fight scenes. Like
I think it's easily the best in Marvel.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah. I thought the visual style was very unique, especially for, like, it's a genre and a style that Marvel hasn't done yet. So, and again, to me, that's further proof that Marvel just knows how to make an origin movie. So I don't care who thinks this stuff is just formulaic and they can just keep pumping them out. That's part of what makes this great, is they can keep doing this and yet they still feel different and fresh. And there's not one that I've disliked. Like, they continue to find ways to make these stories interesting and for me to care about these characters, which is ultimately what's going to make me want to come back and watch more. So, yeah, I think they fucking killed it. I love this movie. We'll hit some of just the regular stuff we hit, and then we'll sort of spin from there. But as far as, like, story and stuff, how do you guys feel about the story? We'll spin around to Josh for this one.
Very engaging. I went into this with a lot of skepticism of my own preferences, I guess. Like, not that I thought they would do it bad or that it would just, like, by its nature would be bad, just that I wouldn't click with it very well.
Yeah.
relationships that they build between Shang-Chi and Katie are amazing. I didn't see the idea of from the little bit of marketing I saw. I didn't predict. Didn't even cross my mind the idea of having the sibling relationship there and being so integral, and that it's mostly at its core, it's a complete family conflict film.
Yeah.
All the pieces to that, as the story went, the characters grew as they needed to. They came into their own acceptance at the times that they needed to, at the various points that were required. Most of the third act, especially like the second half of the third act, holy shit, didn't see any of that coming. I know I'm being like very high level here, but like story wise, it was very engaging. It just kept chugging along, and like I said earlier, it didn't seem like there was fluff. There wasn't a scene or two where I felt, well, they're just stretching this out. Why did they just go from A to B, cut this section out? Why do we even need to know that? It all worked really well.
Yeah. I think like you were talking about the third act, like up until the third act, I felt like the movie was pretty grounded with maybe some magical rings. And then you get to the third act and it just got weird. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? But by then I'm so into it. I'm like, let's go, fucking dragons and shit. Who cares? This is awesome.
Yeah.
It was great.
And that's, I think, like from a story aspect, the fact that, and I guess this definitely goes into other things like production design and just approach to it. I accepted it, whole cloth, because it leaned into the notions and the foundations of Eastern histories and cultures and mythologies and folklore. So it did not seem out of place for those people in that part of the world with that history to be experiencing conflict with those types of forces manifesting in that way. Like, it all made sense. I did not get pulled out 1 second the moment I see, Loch Ness or a giant devil bat monster thing come out of the mountain. Like, it was all there. Like, I just accepted it immediately.
Mike, what'd you think of the story?
To add on to what Josh was saying, there's not a whole lot more I would get to.
Okay.
I think they did, a fantastic job telling the family story, and touching on, something I don't think we have seen much in Marvel. We've seen a lot of family and, daddy issues pop up quite often. It's a thing. It's a very real theme in Marvel, but they didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I really, other than like Thor and Loki, which is kind of siblings, they don't really touch on the whole brother-sister thing. It's not really something they've gone and tried to do anything with, and here they did it, and it worked really, really well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just, from, the way they told the story at the very beginning in the opening scenes when his mother is telling him the legend of the 10 rings.
Yeah.
Kind of weaving that all together, and just dropping those bits of the story you needed to know about how things happened along the way with, the history of things. I really enjoyed what they did. I have lots more to say about other things, but Josh summed it up very well.
Okay. Andy, what do you think of the story?
I thought the story did a very good job of causing me to ask questions as the movie went on. And almost to a frustrating level, not revealing the answers until like the most opportune moment, if that makes any sense.
That's good storytelling right there.
Yeah, because like I was so frustrated to not know what happened to his mom for so long. I'm like, oh man, they're just gonna fucking dangle that and leave it. And I was like frustrated that they weren't like doing the flashback for that, but they crafted it very well. And when you actually do get to see what happens to the mother, it's rewarding.
Yeah.
So I thought they did that. At the end of the movie, during the movie, I was frustrated for not getting the answers to the questions I had in mind. I'm like, what about this? Like, they should have answered it already. Like, damn it. But at the end of the movie, I'm like, wow, that was actually a very good way to pose the story to us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they like I said, I think they did a good job crafting a good, like, different side, like, not even just the magical side, but I guess a different side of the magical side. Like, Doctor Strange is magic, but this is still, like, mystical with some of the stuff that they deal with, which was still kind of cool and fantastical, and I loved the way they crafted that kind of thing. And, like you guys have been saying about the sibling stuff, I think the relationship between, what's her name? Zailing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think. And Shang-Chi, I think that was a really good backbone for the story to see how that played out. And really interested to see where they go from here, because it seems like it ends that their relationship on a cliffhanger to see where the hell that goes. So that could be cool. Let's move to maybe just direction. Mike, what do you think of the direction for the movie?
I guess I always have a tough time on what to include in direction other than just like it was pretty. But I mean it really was beautiful. They managed with, I guess, their ideas, like the one thing that comes to mind is like they managed to create that forest, I guess, and it's more of a special effect, but it's also direction. It's in the ideas they had, I guess, for how to shoot the scenes of the forest and how to shoot all the... I'm trying to think of the way to put it. Linking things together with shots. You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking of, like
editing?
Well, like, planned shots. You know what I mean? Like, they
Okay.
have it planned, and they're saying, like, the way that they show you, like, the water temple, or not the water temple, the forest, but it's water. You know what I mean? Like when he puts the two eyes in and you see all that, and then they kind of just go into it. That shot where it was impressive. You know what I mean? And like I'm trying to think because I want to talk about the fights, and I don't know if that falls into directing or if you have another.
I mean, we can get into choreography and it's a separate thing. So
Okay, so I mean, other than that, I feel like. I was impressed, I guess, and I don't know how much of the credit goes to the directing team, but I was impressed with the performance they got out of Awkwafina.
yeah, okay, yeah,
Because before I'd seen her really only kind of making an ass of herself in comedy. You know what I mean? Like what comedians do.
yeah.
And she still manages to be funny here, but she also manages to be a serious character that works, and
Yeah.
I was impressed with that because I didn't. That was one of my biggest concerns going in, because I don't think she had a serious role before this. Not that I'm aware of, or in a movie that I watched.
Yeah, I don't know enough about her, like, filmography to know one way or the other.
The only one that comes to mind, and I know we're not on like actors or characters yet, but I could be wrong. I think she was nominated for a Golden Globe for something this year or last year for a drama role for a movie called the Farewell.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's all new to me.
But other than that, yes, mostly she, from what I understand that I've seen her, she's been in, yes, more of a comedic, comic relief role, etc.
Okay.
Again, it's hard for me to determine what all are really good shots, but I mean, like, that's why, like, with the fighting and all that, I come to some of the camera work that was done.
Yeah.
I guess that falls into direction during the fights, specifically during the fight on the side of the building.
Yeah.
The choreography, the fights, all that, whatever, they're good, but the camera following it on multiple levels and the shots where you're actually able to see, it was something I found impressive. I don't know if you guys noticed, but you're able to see Zailing fighting in the background and Shang fighting in the foreground, and both fights are choreographed and happening at the same time and having things happen, and you're seeing it all. Yeah, I mean, the camera shot is such that it's working, and I found that to be really cool.
I always love, like, wide angle shots when they're doing some sort of action sequence. Like, just being able to see everything that's going on in frame. One,
Mhm.
they can't fake it as much. Like, it's And if it, especially if it's a longer shot, like, you know, they're doing what they're meant to be doing. You're not cutting around stuff that didn't work. You're not zoomed in on stuff that you just to keep other stuff out of the frame. Like, that's stuff that impresses me. So I see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah. And other than that, I'll pass it along so I don't just ramble on.
Okay. Andy, anything for direction?
I think I would have to agree that the camera shots, specifically for me in fight scenes, the bus scene, I thought had some really cool shots, like where you were looking from one end of the bus to the other and watching him do his stuff, almost as if you were the driver or a passenger. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I thought the director did a good job of determining whether someone delivered a line correctly or in a way that fit the movie. Because I feel like everyone gave a very good performance, not just Awkwafina. Like, and sometimes like lines or demeanor when you're saying a line like doesn't quite fit with what's going on at the time, you know. But I felt like this one was pretty freaking spot on, and I think that can be difficult from a directorial standpoint. And I don't know if it's a direction thing, but I thought the flashbacks were very on point. Like you knew when they were happening, but not over. Like they didn't go like, "This is a flashback," you know. Like you knew it was happening. Yeah. Exactly. So they were tastefully done, I thought, and there were a lot of flashbacks, but I always felt myself wanting to see what had happened in the past.
Yeah.
And sometimes flashbacks, you're like, well, that was dumb and pointless. These ones all had a point. Like, they were all part of the plan, which I enjoyed.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not
Josh?
sure if that's, like a storyboard or a directing thing. So, sorry, Josh.
No. I think it definitely falls under a director's decision. You know, working with the script to determine the best way to edit it, and put it together. Think about how differently the movie would play if it was simply shown in chronological order. That all the stuff that you got of them as kids was presented first. That was the first, 15 to 18 minutes of the movie. Then it progressed to them being a teenager. Then he's grown up, and then it takes off from there. The use and the utilization of past information at critical points in the plot and emotional growth points of the characters, that's what made it so successful for me. There's a way to use flashbacks or nonlinear storytelling that can seem too convenient sometimes. I feel like some stories or editors, directors, whoever's making the big decision will say, well, how are we going to get the audience to have this reaction that we want? Oh, I know, we'll save this critical piece of convenient information for the last 15 minutes of the movie, and then we'll show you a flashback that explains it, and then it's there. One of the most successful, I know I reference this movie a lot, I realize, in a lot of our discussions, but one of the most successful movies, I think, that easily comes to mind to use nonlinear storytelling in this way was the first Deadpool. That movie goes back and forth for big chunks of time.
Yeah.
Very often throughout it. That is a good way to do it. That's an effective way to do it. Shang-Chi also does it really, really well. You starting with starting at the place they did, then you only get like a tidbit of what happened. And I think it goes back to what Andy said earlier. Like, they gave you the breadcrumbs and you kept wanting the answers to the questions. And if they had presented it in a different way, you wouldn't have been asking the questions because they would have already given you the answer that you didn't even, get to ask about yet.
And you got to think about someone that like hasn't seen, like, going into this movie blind. Like, if you haven't seen a trailer or anything, you don't know what this is about, that it's supposed to have like fight choreography and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The way the movie presents the story to you is you get the flashback of Shang-Chi's mom and dad, and he's born, he has the pendant on his necklace, and then you fast forward to present day, He wakes up, he has the pendant. Nothing at the beginning of the movie tells you he can fight.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you
Mhm.
get to the bus, that's the like, oh shit, what's going on? He can fight. Because even there's a, they tell the story in the bar of like he got jumped by this dude. He didn't fight the guy. Aquafina stepped in and stopped the fight. So you never even hear about him surviving a fight. So that's a fun setup and payoff to bring that type of reaction and that surprise for people that don't know what's coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And looking at the director's past stuff, I'm only familiar with two things. The one movie you mentioned, Just Mercy, that also stars Alison Brie. I'm sorry, Brie Larson. Brie Larson.
Okay.
Is
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
part of that cast
Yes.
as well. And the other feature of his that I'm familiar with, that I know about, is called The Glass Castle, also starring Brie Larson. Haven't seen that one, but from what I know of that prior work, this movie is so fun because on paper, none of the elements seem like that's who you should pick to do those things.
Yeah.
That you're, aware of the big stuff. Like, for the most part, no offense to this gentleman, he's an unknown director. Simon Liu is a very
Nothing about those
unknown
movies
actor. Like,
says
Aquafina
to
is
me,
the most
like-
recognizable person in the movie going into it.
Yeah.
That you
Like,
know in
nothing
advance.
Nothing about the movies you mentioned is like, okay, this guy can handle a big blockbuster action movie.
Nothing. Tons of special effects, supernatural
Right,
occurrences,
right.
all that. And
To be fair
kudos
on
to
that,
him. I think he nailed it.
to be fair
Yeah.
on that note, Tony Leung is actually fairly well known as a martial arts movie thing. He's kind of a big deal. Kind of the way that what's his name was for when he did Rogue One, Donnie Yen.
Okay.
Get kind of the same. They pulled him from having done a bunch of martial arts films that he was extremely well known to be very good in, both
So-
acting and in action scenes.
So the only clarification I would add to that, and I think you're right about that, but from a mainstream American audience perspective,
Western audience, it's different.
yes, and I guess that's what I mean is if you're gonna, if you're making this in big part, not entirely now, but in big part for a Western audience and whatnot.
Yeah.
When Aquafina is the biggest recognizable thing in your trailers, and you pull off what all of these creators did, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I agree. Do you want to spin the characters? We'll hit the big three and then we'll sort of spin off into, like, I know we're waiting on fight choreography and stuff like that, so we'll spin to there after some characters. Maybe, I don't know who we didn't start with. Josh, do you want to do characters?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. What I found so enjoyable about this, and I think Mike was the first one to say it, that this film seems so rewatchable automatically.
Yeah.
I've only seen it once, and like Brian, you said, like you've seen it twice, and you would go back again.
Yes.
I'm kind of
yeah.
itching to, if I find time to. If I don't get there before it's out of theaters, like I can't wait to see it again on Blu-ray or streaming or something. The actors specifically just made this like so enjoyable, and they're like the chemistry, whatever. Like if they screen tested, Simon Liu with Aquafina especially, the two of them, put Shang-Chi in the center of the web. His interaction with Katie, his interaction with his sister, and his interaction with his father, all separately especially, were just like golden casting. Like everybody worked
Yeah.
marvelously together. The only, and this is one of the few, I said I only have like 3 small critiques. This is not a shot at him, but it's more of like of the character. I freaking loved the surprise of Trevor Slattery showing up. Didn't see that coming in a million years, and I was just smiling like an idiot for the first 3 minutes after he turns around. The only thing with him, for me, it seems like, especially once they reached the village, story-wise and like editing-wise, like they had no idea what to do with him.
Oh, yeah. You have no idea where he ends up. Does he stay there? Does he come back with them? We don't know.
Right, and I feel like you only get like, especially like during the battle itself and whatnot, like you only get like 2 shots of him during it all, just because like they're like, okay, this was fun to all tie together, but now that we're here, what role do you actually need to play? Very little to none. And like I said, if that is like one of the worst small 3 things I could point out about this, you know, that sort of stood out to me. That's saying a lot, but I thought I loved getting to watch Michelle Yeoh, you know, walk into this. Tony Leung nailed it in sort of that I want to be a caring father, because in my mind I'm doing nothing wrong. I probably know I'm a criminal and probably a murderer and all that stuff, but from the family aspect, nothing about anything I've done or that I'm trying to do now, there's nothing wrong with it. And that's a hard line to walk as a convincing character.
And I will say, the one thing that I felt like I walked out of the movie thinking that surprised me was that his character specifically, like the real Mandarin, quote unquote, I gave more of a shit about him than I ever expected to in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I expected to just be on Shang-Chi and just be like, okay, I'm following him and his story. And I got so invested in his father's story that by the end of it, the build up to the end, when he sacrifices himself, you're meant to feel something, and it hit me harder than I thought it would, given the way the movie played out. So that's a success in itself on doing well by that character that I gave a shit when he died.
I feel like that a lot of that comes from, you know, how the character's built up. You know what I mean? He is this person that's corrupted by these rings. You know what I mean? And I think we see that, I don't know, I guess we're eventually going to learn what's going on with the different colors the rings turn. And because, you know, for whatever reason, they're like that dark blue color with Wen Wu, and they're the golden yellow, orange, whatever you want to, glowing gold, let's say, with Shang-Chi.
Which they turned the same color when his mother was playing with him, too.
Right. And I figure at some point they're going to tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe there's something that it sees that it can exploit, or something in the person, or something. Who knows? I'm sure we'll figure it out eventually. They'll, you know, when they tell us more about them. But seeing that he was corrupted by that, but he was still able to say, in the name of love and family, I'm going to put these away and give up immortality.
Yeah.
I'm going to step aside from being this eternal, powerful criminal warlord, whatever the hell you want to call him. And I have a family now. It took how many hundreds or thousands of years for him to find the woman and the children that made him decide to do that. And then she dies, and he flips and loses his stuff because he lost his wife. He lost the woman that made him give that up, and he felt weak, and he turns internally into something else.
Yeah.
Again, I guess. You know, he has a moment of his own weakness and turns away, and it's something where he does a lot of bad things. You know what I mean? As a character in the past, he goes through a lot of bad things, but he has that full arc to come around to realizing, you know, like, what he did.
Yeah.
And atoning for it in the end. And I feel like that's why that character really works, is because that full arc happens all right there for us. We're not assuming any of it.
Right.
You know, and I think I seen a thing where it was like a poll of like who had it worse with their father-son relationship, and they had a bunch of different Marvel characters up there, and it's still Star-Lord no matter what. Like, Star-Lord's dad killed his mom. That's it's way worse. But we don't see that happen. We hear him say that he did it. I feel like Ego's character arc, there is no arc. Ego's just out for himself the whole time.
Yeah.
And he talks about Meredith a good deal, but we don't see it. You know what I mean? We see a little snippet at the very beginning of the movie of him with Peter's mom, and that's it.
Yeah. And
here we get that story throughout the whole way, building up Wenwu's character, the Mandarin, whatever you want to call him. We get that story built up through the whole way, and it's much better done in a character standpoint.
Right.
Than I think they've done before with that situation.
Andy, what do you think? Characters, or even specifically Mandarin?
Specifically the Mandarin, or any characters?
Well, since we're sort of on the topic of Mandarin, let's start with Mandarin. Then, if you want to spin off to somebody else, go for it.
Okay. I'm with you. I didn't expect to. I guess technically he's the third iteration of the Mandarin in the MCU.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're
Peter
not wrong.
Slattery, and then the dude from AIM, and then
Yes.
the actual Mandarin Wang Wu. Is that what you said, Wen Wu?
That's what he says his name is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you become invested, and most of the movie, although you're seeing the movie from you're seeing his story mostly from surrounding Shang-Chi, you still get so much background from him that it's hard not to have a moment when he does relinquish the rings to Shang-Chi. You know, it's a heartfelt moment, and it's very well done. I think character-wise, I think Josh touched on a lot of things. The relationships that Shang-Chi had with everybody, I think, really drove the movie, and they did a very good job with, I think he said, screen testing, or I can't remember what you called it.
Those chemistry tests.
Yeah. They did a good job with that. The questions that I had, or I guess like mini issues, they're not real important, but when I first saw Shang-Chi having breakfast with Katie's grandmother and mother and brother, I expected maybe the 10 rings to take them hostage or see them again, have them thrown back into the story at some point in the movie. And I feel like we didn't get anything from that.
Right.
Which leads me to my next thing is when Wong takes her as with Shang-Chi, leads me to believe that the scene where the real Mandarin asks her what her Chinese name is that what he called it?
Yeah.
Chinese name? And she gives it, and her ability to just pick up a bow and be pretty freaking good at it immediately leads me to believe that she is important in a way that will yet to be revealed to us.
See, I think I spun it a different way. One, I think at least my interpretation of that scene when she says a Chinese name was that she made it up. Like, she seems to look across the table at Zailing like, what do I say? And she just nods like, yeah. And then I feel like she pulls the name out of thin air because it sounds cool. And he just rolls with it because he doesn't know. Like, the Mandarin just rolls with it, not knowing, like, okay, we just made up a name. And maybe less so that she's important, but more, like, as far as Wong taking her along, maybe less so that she's, like, that the name is important, but more that she's been involved in all the events that happened in the third act. And, like, at least experienced everything with Shang-Chi. So it's like, okay, well, you're pretty much locked into this world now. You can't just go along with your life and, forget what happened and try to pretend that everything's normal now. You are here. You're in it. So let's go.
And speaking of that, I love how that scene exemplifies that now, like, after the snap happened and the whole Thanos thing and all that happened, they don't care about trying to hide what they do anymore. Wong's just like, I'm just going to open a portal into this restaurant and grab these people. Like,
Yeah.
Listen, it doesn't matter anymore. We're just, people get it now. They're not, there's no secrecy in the matter.
So, I mean, like, I guess Josh and Mike, how did you guys interpret Awkwafina's character? Do you think she's important and stuff like Andy was thinking, or do you think she's just kind of like winging stuff and going along for the ride?
I was more in line with what you said, Brian, at least how that dinner scene played out, but I like Andy's thought process because one of my other 3 notes was it seemed not believable how quickly she apparently got good at archery so fast.
Yes. Almost like she's a long line of a lineage of Oriental like warriors or something to that effect, you know?
Right, and if they can play it that way, then it'll feel better how it occurred here, because to me it was like very non-organic. It was a bit too, for me it was a bit too fast, because they needed her to do an important thing in a vital moment. But the point of them arriving in the village and, you know, them like leading her to the archery range, and that moment of like hitting that good shot on the big monster, just like that was way too fast for me to buy into completely. So if down the road there is something more that we find out about her, that you sort of suggested, I that would actually make me feel better about this. So I like that idea.
So I hear what you're saying, and it would make that moment better. But I feel like if there is something more there, that it has to be done correctly. She cannot know about it. It has to be something that she has no knowledge of. Otherwise, it's one of those things of like, so you pulled that out that you had this whole time to shoot that one arrow, and that was it. You know what I mean? So it has to have that she's oblivious to the fact that she has something like that going on.
Okay.
Because if she knew and didn't use it in those moments with like friggin' dragons fighting in the air and like, you know, all the shit happening, it'd be like, why would you not make more use of your abilities then?
Yeah.
While all this was happening.
If it's part of the learning journey for her as we see her more involved, that would be pretty cool.
I feel like we'll have to, you know, if we get to a point where this hits Disney Plus and we can rewatch it again, we'll just have to start Googling the actual like Chinese name she gives at the table and see if there is any connection to some character in the end, like in Marvel for that.
And she says it so fast, it was actually hard to understand what exactly she said.
Right.
I'm sure if you Google it, there's people that have broke it down. You know, I'm sure there's people out there that have watched it and enough times and seen and figured out what the name is and if it matters, because people do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think, you know, for me it would be cool if that was her moment of kind of like stepping up to the bat for the first time in Little League and hitting a home run the first time she swings. I'd be okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's rare, but it can happen. She took a shot and she got lucky. And now she has found the confidence or whatever she would need to continue on and become part of the team.
Yeah.
I would be fine with that explanation too. I'm fine either way. Which do I think it is? I think she's going to remain a side type character like that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a little bit more involved than Luis is, say, for Ant-Man. You know what I mean? Where he's like there to help. And he's a really fun character, but he's not doing a whole lot more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In Ant-Man 2 than he was in Ant-Man. It's, you know.
So let me ask you guys a question. Let's say Wong went to get Ant-Man, and Luis was there, was with him the whole time. Would Wong have brought Luis with him when he got Ant-Man?
I partially want to say yes. Because again,
What
going with my
moment, though, are we
rationale,
talking?
Luis
like, would
has...
he go out of his way for it? No.
Well,
if he
again,
was there anyways.
in my mind, like... Oh, I guess if he's going out of his way, that might be different. If Luis is there, like, at the table or something with Ant-Man, then yes, I think Luis comes.
See, I disagree. I don't think Wong takes Luis. So I that's why I think
Okay.
that Awkwafina's character, Katie, is more important.
Yeah, because
in some way that has yet to been revealed.
Right. Yeah, at least I'm just thinking, like, in my rationale, like, Luis has seen some shit, too. So, like,
he's
kind of in it, too.
He knows about the truth
You mentioned him, and, like, they have both just been, like, sidekicks to the real heroes. But in my mind, Wong would just leave Luis there, and then Luis would be like, see, this thing happened, you know, and he would tell a story about, like, the thing being cut into the air. And
Well, Wong would bring him so that he could tell the story later about what happened.
Yeah.
Well, I also feel like Luis wouldn't just sit there. Like, he just follows Scotty through the portal. It doesn't matter if Wong wanted him there or not.
That's true. He just walk in, just be like, all right, yeah.
But at that point,
they'd kind of look and be like, "How did you get here?" He's like,
"Yeah, he wouldn't be invited at that point, you know."
I know one of the things I kept thinking, like, another thing that I sort of walked away from the movie thinking was, Shang-Chi and even Katie, like their duo and their dynamic is such a fun dynamic, and especially because of the end credit scene, like pulling Wong into karaoke. I'm like, I just want to see Shang-Chi and Katie hang out with other people in the MCU. Like, it doesn't need, I don't care what movie it is. Just show them hanging out and doing karaoke. I'm fine with that.
I mean, we need a Star-Lord and Shang-Chi and Katie kind of
Oh, yeah.
happen.
Oh,
Like
that's
the music,
perfect.
like it's got a something. I don't know what, but something.
Yeah, I'm down
Oh
with
man, throw Drax into that. That'd be amazing.
that.
Just him there standing there while they're having all this fun. Just
Yeah.
what are you doing?
All right, I know we've been skipping around it, but so the choreography and fight scenes and stuff. Mike, you've been chopping at the bit, so whatever you
Kind
want
of.
to touch on for that stuff.
First thing I want to say, thank you to the John Wick series for leading to stuff like this in the MCU. I think we can kind of all come back to that's where this is going. It's what popularized these types of single shot fight scenes that we get in the first half of the movie.
Well, let me pivot too, because I don't know if any of you have more viewing experience with stuff like this. I don't watch a lot of them, but just kung fu movies in general. How are their
Some.
action sequences filmed? Are they more wide shots, or are they?
Well, it depends on what era you're talking. I mean, it's gone more. It's coming more to that recently.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And some movies, it would be. I guess sometimes, like, if you look back at, like, the one that always comes to mind for me is Ip Man. And I know that movie specifically, they have several very difficult things that happen in a single shot, and then there's a cut.
Yeah.
So, it's very fast, very hard to pull off things that, like, Donnie Yen would be doing. And, like, I'm trying to think of it along the lines of the things they were asking him to do would be unreasonable to ask him to do consecutively without making a mistake.
Right.
So those are kind of why you would have the cuts and
Kind
a
of
lot
Jackie
more
Chan
of
type stuff.
yeah. So getting those in single shots would be insanely difficult.
Yeah.
And a lot of movies like this still rely on things like that, but not all of them. And, more today you're seeing more and more of it mixed in, I guess. Kind of the way that this is a little bit mixed too, but it's also because of what's happening in some of the scenes.
Okay.
Like I think what I would say for like this movie specifically is the fight on the side of the building. I'll come back to as maybe the best fight scene I've seen ever, because of what like I said earlier with the camera angles, the single shot portrayal of it, as well as incorporating Katie falling off the side of the building on the scaffolding that's falling apart.
Yeah.
And following the action down this building and up and around and all, it was unbelievable how well done it was. Because, I don't know that we've seen a movie actually take like that single shot type of action to multiple levels of a structure before.
Yeah.
In that way. And it was impressive. The opening scene, with his mother and father when they first meet, like that opening fight between them, it was beautiful in a way where they're fighting, but they're also, you can see there's a connection there in that whole sequence. The choreography between them is more than just a fight.
And I'll be honest, when they start that fight and like during it, you start to see them like give each other the look as they're fighting. The first time I saw it, I'm rolling my eyes. Like, are you fucking kidding me? These people are gonna fall in love, but they seem to be mortal enemies. The way the story is starting, and then again by the end of it, I'm like, oh my god, they're so in love. This is great. Like, I was in it.
And
It was like a fight and a dance at
Yes.
the same time.
yes,
And that to me was impressive. It was fun to watch and just all around really well done. But I'll let go ahead. Others
Josh, were you gonna chime in?
have at it.
no, I was actually that's what I was waiting to make is the exact dance comment that there's somewhere along the way of that conflict that you can tell while she is still protecting her post as the entrance to the place and whatnot, it does become like a conflict dance in the way between the two of them. The only thing that I could, again, not even like try to pick apart with it, but sometimes when there was a lot happening specifically on that building fight, the camera moves a little too quickly at points. It's not shaky cam, but it's moving from reference point A to the next spot that they want to get to a little too quickly, and it kind of blurs the image sometimes. If they had slowed that down just a bit, they tried to always keep you understanding your reference point. They never wanted you to lose exactly where you were and where everyone else you're watching was in relation to everybody else involved. And that's what made it so successful, but at times they moved a little too quickly, so I had to take that extra second or two once they reached their new focal point to reacclimate my eyes to sort of like the sharper image and like, oh, okay, they've now stopped and what has happened. Sometimes along the way from A to B, I kind of got lost as to where they were going, what was happening a little bit. But other than that, like to polish something like that up, otherwise, all of it was put together fairly well. And I mean, even for that whole climax scene, where you have a couple dozen combatants, going at each other, and there's multiple conflicts happening all over the field. Then you have them mutually being attacked by the monsters, and then once you're up in the air when they're riding Fantasia and they're battling. Do we even have a name for this demon thing? Whatever the hell it was.
I've been calling it the Soul Devourer. I don't know.
They called it
the darkest one or something. The dark.
Yeah,
they had a
like
name
that.
for it, like
and
Greatest
speaking,
of Evils or something.
A short aside on that, the whole damn movie, because I don't know a whole lot about Shang-Chi other than like interactions with Iron Fist.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking this was going to be their introduction of Mephisto.
I said the exact same thing.
I was just sitting there like, this is going to be Mephisto behind this thing. This is why we haven't seen him yet in the MCU. They've had him locked up. This all makes sense.
As soon as they said Soul Sucker, I was like, Mephisto.
Yes.
Yeah, like they're going to do it. Disney's going to do the devil. It's going to happen.
Brian turned to me. I was sitting next to him
okay.
in the theater. He turned to me, and I think like half kind of said that jokingly. And then about 2 more minutes go by, and they share another piece of information about the thing, another characteristic. I forget what it was. But I turned back to him. I said, you might be right.
At this point, it's like every MCU property, whether it's series or movie, that meme of
Mephisto?
DiCaprio pointing is just going to keep getting longer and longer.
But I guess to digress, they're during that whole aerial conflict between those two beasts, while you have the two smaller figures of Shang-Chi and Xialing there, like you have to keep your reference. You have to know where are they on it, where are they as it moves around in a 360-degree manner
Right.
in relation to the other thing moving around them both in a 360-degree manner. Storyboard wise, special effects wise, like putting it all together, it's not easy to do, and I think they did pretty well.
Andy, what do you think about fight scenes, choreography?
So I would agree with Mike as far as like best fight scene, possibly ever. It was too dark for me to be that though, and that threw me off. And I think Josh also had a good point with like how fast the reference point changed and like had to reacclimate, and with it being too dark, and those two things really didn't really sour it, but like I would have preferred a slower transition and a little bit more light to see what was actually happening, because I did feel like I lost figures, like enemies that were also in black,
Right.
So, but I did enjoy watching. You almost watched the fight twice because you could see the fight happening and the reflection behind it. I thought that was a really, really cool effect.
Yeah.
Have you guys all seen the movie The One? With Jet
It
Li?
has been a while,
I have
but
not.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Do you remember that the 2 iterations of the Jet Li character had 2 different fighting styles? One was very close-fisted and in a very straight circle. I felt like that was Tony Leung's character, and the other guy was very like dancey and like open palmed and in circular fighting motions. I felt like that was almost what they were trying to go for here.
Yeah.
Because not only did Shang-Chi sort of adopt it, but his mother sort of, that first fight where it was like the rings versus like the wind and leaves was very like the one, like very close-fisted, I'll attack you, power, straightforward, versus like I'm going to deflect and throw and
it's a yin and yang thing, isn't it?
It might
That's a
be,
good
but
point.
I kept getting that feeling that it was sort of like that dynamic in as far as like a martial arts battle was.
Andy's gonna make me go look up where the one is streaming when we're done recording.
But I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
I know some of you talked about it. Do you have a favorite fight scene? Because I actually think I think I can pick something out of every fight sequence that I enjoyed. I think like Mike said, the first fight between Shang-Chi's mother and father is very beautifully done. It's not my favorite, but it's really well shot. Like the fight on the building, I think was really complex and interesting and unique. And the part of that fight that I think I liked the most was the part, some of it you see in the trailer, but when Shang-Chi and the dude in the mask are fighting with the knives in front of the big like neon screen. I thought that was fucking cool looking. But I still think my favorite fight is the one on the bus. Like, I don't know what it is about that fight, but I love that fight. That whole confined space and the way that shot and edited. I thought that was just so fucking well done. And I think part of it, I think, is the music. Like the music starts pumping at that fight scene, and I'm just like, yeah, get it, let's go, let's fucking go. Like I'm in it. Like it's great.
It does have that a bit of that like Daredevil season 1 hallway fight to it, you know, where it's like you said, it's confined, all this is happening, but then you put the guy with, you know, Razor Fist was his name, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's just slicing everything up, and that was kind of like startling at first because it was like, did that actually just cut through all? Oh, okay, that's really yikes.
So there's something I caught on the second viewing, and try to keep an eye out for it if you see it again, because it's probably one of those things they're like, no one's going to pay attention to it. He cuts one of the poles in the bus, the top, like through the top part of it and through the bottom of it. The section he cuts out should not still be floating there in midair, but it is, and Shang-Chi grabs it and spins around that section of the pole. It should not even exist. It should fall off of the pole because the top and bottom are cut, but it's in there.
Maybe it was hanging by a thread.
Maybe.
You know, but okay. Maybe he's that fast, you know?
Maybe.
Or maybe it was such a clean cut that like it didn't displace the middle piece at all.
Just sat there.
So it was there until something jarred it loose.
Well, that's what I mean. Like his Shang-Chi's weight swings around it. Like he grabs that section of the pole that's cut out and swings around it.
Or they missed that and it was a mistake.
Or it welded back together because it was
like
because you figure like obviously he's not actually cutting
immediately.
anything. It's just like a CG effect where they just cut out edit out a piece of the pole, so it's probably physically still there. But
sure.
Yeah, you're not focusing on the pole. You're focusing on him supposed to be, swinging around the pole and fighting Razor Fist. So it's not really something you pick up on, but I just happened to catch him. I was like, did it?
In that whole scene, like, had, the comedy aspect of it, too, with Katie's character being like, what the hell is going on? Watching her, her best friend kick the shit out of
and the
these
dude on the
guys.
phone that's live streaming.
Yeah.
Which the internet told me is the same dude that's from Homecoming, who's on the street and yells up at the rooftop for Spider-Man to do a flip.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously?
It looks like the same exact dude.
Well, wait,
I don't know if that was on purpose that they brought him back.
Queens and San Francisco.
Right.
Yeah, maybe he's just tourist then. He's just hanging out there.
Be.
Wait, that's Homecoming?
Homecoming, yeah.
Yeah, that's
the beginning sequence when he's like,
he
just comes out of school and starts doing neighborhoodly things.
Right.
Trying to talk to Happy.
I'm trying to think of how much story time is in between because the snap happens, the 5 years is there, so there's probably
There's enough
7 to 8 years of story time between those moments. So
Yeah, theoretically, that guy could have been
Dude
like,
could've
fuck New
moved.
York, man, I'm going to San Francisco.
Yep.
Yeah. What was I? Oh, I was just gonna point out, like, they definitely went full anime by the end of it.
Oh, yeah.
The whole, what he does with the rings at the end there, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I don't have an explanation for it, but it was just cool as shit. Like, it was brutal but cool at
Yeah.
the same time, what he does to the monster. I'm just gonna... we don't have a real name, I guess, narrowed down for it, but the monster.
I'm going to call him Ken.
Ken the monster.
Mike, I think you sort of mentioned your favorite fight was the building fight, right?
Agreed.
Okay. Andy, did you pick which fight sequence was your favorite? Do you have a favorite? Can you pick a favorite?
I'd have to say, just because of the story implications and the family implications, probably Shang-Chi versus Mandarin.
Okay. So the third act
Right-
fight between the two of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
right in front of the seal.
Okay. Josh, did you have a favorite fight?
All of them.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I cannot choose.
It was all really good.
I don't know if I have any as far as like other questions or stuff to bring up as far like the main part of the movie. I was gonna jump to the end credits type stuff if we want to spitball some of that stuff. So I don't know if you guys have anything else for the main body of the movie.
You
wanna touch
mentioned
on.
the Leo DiCaprio meme of him like pointing at the screen. And
Yeah.
like, oh man, I had that moment watching the trailer, and I know you skipped the trailers. But you got spoiled. You said on Abomination,
Yes.
from somebody talking about it.
Yes.
But the moment when he meets the dragon underwater, I had that moment when I'm like watching that trailer the first time, like Fin Fang Foom, and like I know now. I guess that's not Fin Fang Foom, or it's a different interpretation of because I feel like Fin Fang Foom is an alien, correct?
And I thought he was a villain, isn't
Right.
he? Okay.
But the dragon they presented shares an awful lot of the characteristics, like the fins that come out the side of the head. Like there was a lot of the same
Right.
characteristics, but I don't think it's meant to be Fin Fang Foom. But when you see it in the trailer and there's no context, it's just him underwater staring at this giant dragon.
Yeah.
It was like, oh no, you don't know if it's good or bad in the trailer.
So one
And-
thing sorry, continue. If you got more,
No,
keep going.
No, I don't.
I was trying to look up because I knew that they took liberties with the 10 rings. So I was trying to look up like what are they like in
Yeah.
the comics. So the stuff that I had found online was saying the 10 rings are like finger rings that are part
Mhm.
of an alien like power source. Basically, the Mandarin finds them from a crashed spaceship that has been here for years.
Mhm.
And fiddling with this machinery over the course of decades, he picks out 10 pieces of this power source and he can put them on his fingers, and each one has a different power set that he can use. The ship and the rings come from an alien race that are dragon-like,
Yes.
which makes me wonder if the dragon that's left there guarding the door is one of those alien species.
I believe it probably is going to be that.
Because it's never
Um,
explained. I don't remember the name of the alien race that they talked about. I'd have to look that up again.
Something with an M, I believe.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But
Well, I can
yeah,
try to find it if we're spitballing here and come back to it.
There's definitely something going on more there with the rings, obviously. What I don't know where they're taking their version of the rings, but personally, like I was only ever really introduced to the Mandarin as a villain as an Iron Man villain,
Right.
not like movies. Like in the comics, it was a major Iron Man villain.
Right.
So this was a whole new take, and I honestly didn't really remember the origins of the character.
So it's a dragon-like race, Axon Kar, or Makluans, from the
That's the
planet
one I know
Maklu
of.
4.
And was it Dragon Man's one of them? Or
That
is
I
it-
don't know. I don't know. I found something on Mandarin's rings on Marvel.com
Oh, okay.
that's listing what they are.
So I don't know. I think Dragon Man might be one of them. if you know who that is.
That off the top of my head, I do not.
Okay. But yeah, I think so, but I don't want to state that, I guess, confidently enough to say that, but I think.
Last call. You guys got anything else for the main body of the movie? Anything else you want to touch on? Or we'll get into end credits-y things.
I really enjoyed the effects they did with the rings and what he was able to accomplish with the power sets that he sort of finely tuned over the 1,000 years that he had them. It was very cool, and I think he even like surprised himself with some of the things that he was able to do even at the end there. So
I love the sound design for those too. Like the big like thumping boom whenever he like punches something or like shoots himself off like a jump.
Yeah.
It just sounds so cool.
And did anybody else get the feeling that, especially in that first fight scene, that the mom almost had like the Mega Man Leaf Shield thing going on?
I can see it now that you said that.
I was looking at it and I was just seeing like the Airbender stuff. Like, I'm definitely seeing that. But now that you say that, definitely, I probably will now not ever not see that.
Sorry for ruining that scene for you. That's all I had.
So we'll talk about some like the end credit scene, and then we'll go to rating and wrap up. As far as the end credit scene, so we get Wong picks Katie and Shang-Chi up, brings him to the sanctum, checks out the rings as far as we can tell, like sort of breaks them down in their holographic projection, whatever they're looking at. And the rings seem to be having some sort of homing beacon or something, like sending a call out to someone or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get a very non-Hulk Bruce Banner that's there. So I feel like that's already a story point. Like, why are you not the Hulk now? Yep. And we see Captain Marvel discussing what the rings could mean and who they could be talking to. And point I wanted to make earlier, Josh, you were mentioning other movies the director has done, and 2 of them had Brie Larson in it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I was reading about the end credit scene was he was specifically trying to pick a reason to get Captain Marvel in the end credit scene because he just wanted to work with Brie Larson again.
She had a different hairdo this time again.
Yes, yeah.
The changing hairdos remains a theme for the character in the MCU. I like that.
I really want to see more of her with the short hair. I thought she looked pretty cool with the short hair from Endgame.
I want them to just let her go full on mohawk. I want to see the actual mohawk that the character, at one time at least, had in the comics.
Yeah.
Like that you kind of get the taste of in her movie.
With her helmet.
More like with the helmet idea. Yeah.
It's kind of tied to that. Because I guess, to me, this is part of the end credits in so much that it involves Wong, and like part of me wonders what's going on with Abomination and Wong as well.
I guess that's one thing we didn't talk about either, too, is just the Abomination cameo and stuff, so we can touch on that, too.
I feel like, because it's tied to Wong, and it's really ancillary to the story and separate, I feel like it fits here.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's like I'm just trying to set up the scene, and then we can sort of dive into it, but, yeah, I don't know, like, Captain Marvel's there, she gets a call, she leaves, so we'll see, I guess, where her movie takes place, if somehow that is some sort of connective tissue to whatever is going on in the Marvels. And yeah, so I guess the big question is, any guesses as to who or what these rings may or may not be calling? I don't know enough about, like, we just sort of talked about their origin in the comics is they come from some dragon-like race. I don't know if they would be calling that race, which seems like suddenly a race of dragon-like aliens show up to Earth. I feel like that's a little bit out there for Marvel right now. I don't know if they'd go that far. That seems a little too far-fetched for me, personally, right now.
I think...
Go ahead, Andy.
I think maybe, this is just a guess, but I think possibly the previews of the Eternals may have answered that.
Oh, see, I've been staying away from those trailers, so I don't know.
Well, it showed in front of the movie, so
I've been hiding from those also.
Oh, so did you like shut your eyes and go?
Like,
la, 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 la,
I bring earplugs to movies now and play music and shut my eyes during trailers that I don't want to see.
And the new Eternals trailer played in front of Candyman, and I didn't have my headphones, so I just got up and left. I came back like 3
did you
minutes later.
did you by chance go and get some candy, man?
Just gonna keep hammering that joke
Every
home.
time it comes up.
Anyways, I don't want to spoil the preview for or anything, but they say they come from a planet thousands of years ago and ended up on planet Earth. So I'm wondering if the rings aren't from the ships that the Eternals brought.
Oh, okay.
Mm,
All right, that
okay.
would be a fun connection. I think that would make sense.
It would tie correctly into how they usually do these things leading into the next movie.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So it would make perfect sense for that to be the case. You know, I mean, I could spitball and tell you I'd love it to be, singing a song to a Herald of Galactus, but I don't think that's what's going on there.
Yeah.
I think
You don't think it's
what
the
Andy said is
Shi'ar?
There's our X-Men connection. Let's go, buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, it could the rings be signaling to the Shi'ar? I think it's too soon for that, for the X-Men connection to go there as a start.
Possibly. Depends if they pull that taffy for a while.
There's things I would like to say about that. In terms of like stuff you don't want me to talk about. So I'm not gonna. But there's a possibility that stuff,
So this might be
there's
an
a
easy
tie-in
explanation. We might be
somewhere.
just talking about this when we talked about Eternals in 2 months and connect the dots there. So
But that's what I think
That's
we're going to see, just because it makes sense.
Yeah, that's without grasping it like a whole bunch of different straws that you could really grasp at.
yeah,
I think that's the most.
I mean, this is the time to lay your
That's the
outlandish
easiest-
claims and speculation
easiest-
on record, and we'll see if
Yeah,
2 years from now
easiest
someone
connection.
called it.
So, although if you see the trailer for the Eternals, it could be other things, I guess. But I think that's a much larger leap.
Okay, so maybe we'll revisit after Eternals comes out and see if we think it's answered or if we still have to spitball and talk about who or what might be coming for these things.
If I don't know how much of a spoiler it would be, so I don't want to say, but I feel like there's
That's safe. Yeah, we'll just move on from there.
Yeah, like there's another thing going on with the Eternals that's even part of like their comic book storyline that's shown in the in the trailer and all that if you haven't read the comics you wouldn't know anything about that. I feel like it could definitely be tied to.
I mean,
it's centrally tied to the story of the Eternals.
Because I purposely, I could have tried to research Shang-Chi before the movie. I didn't. I was just kind of let the movie wash over me and tell me what it wanted to tell me. I'm trying to do the same for Eternals, not research anything about Eternals beforehand and just let the movie show me what it wants to show me. And if I want to do some research after, I will. So if you're referencing anything from the trailer and comics, assume that I don't know anything and we're just going to try to keep it that way.
Right, and that's why I'm not saying anything, but
Yeah.
I'm saying it would make sense
Okay.
to be either what Andy said or a beacon to what you're going to see in a month and a half at the
All right.
Eternals.
So then, yeah, what we'll do is we'll revisit this question for Eternals review whenever we get there and see if we need to add anything to it or specify anything else.
We could actually, what we could do is almost have like an MCU segment for this new phase as like almost like a connective tissue segment.
Okay.
Where almost like something carries from movie to movie. Right now we think it's going to be like the rings and their origin and whatnot, and we'll check that at the next movie segment and see what we think will carry over to the next one.
So if the rings don't carry over to Eternals and it's not answered and they're just still hanging and we just come back to them every other MCU movie after that to see if
they're
they
still hanging, I would speculate a lot more.
Yes.
If they don't tie to the Eternals, I feel like there's something I would speculate much more.
Yeah, it's what was the thing that Sherlock Holmes said? Like, oh God, I can't remember. Something about checking all the evidence, and no matter how improbable what the evidence points to, like, you've already eliminated all the other possibilities.
I feel like I know where you're going, but I don't remember the quote either.
Yeah, but
Okay, yeah, we'll try to remember to come back to this then for Eternals and see where we go. I guess just quickly, what did you guys think of the Abomination cameo? Because I sort of forgot to bring that up when we were talking about the movie.
So I'm going to go first on this only because this is the last of my 3 points of my list. I didn't understand why it was there. And after 13 years, and you have this character show up with everything that occurred in between, and you just throw it in here, and it's presumably, like, I think it's already been confirmed that Abomination is going to be a part of the She-Hulk show.
Okay.
There's a lot of heavy lifting that they're going to have to do to make it make sense as to why it was done in this way. Like, I thought not that he would play a big role, but not like it I don't understand the whole point of giving us that in the context of this Fight Club, just to show us afterward that him and Wong are kind of on a thing together, that they're kind of setting up the fights and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't understand the point of it whatsoever.
I think you'll get there eventually, and I think one, it was to show partially how badass Wong is, that Wong is going toe-to-toe with Abomination, and he's just like, punch yourself, bitch. Like, that was kind of fun.
Sure.
But the other aspect of it, I think, is it's setting up the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers. It's just another step on that trail.
Which it may. Like I said, given the big scale, literal universe-altering stuff that happened at least once, if not multiple times, in between the only 2 times you see this character, and all you get is this presentation in this context, I didn't see the point in having it there.
It underwhelmed me for sure. Like, considering this was one of those things I was like, oh, fuck, that I caught this somewhere, someone told me this and spoiled this for me. And it was literally 2 minutes of screen time to just be like, hey, look, Abomination still exists and he's still in the MCU somewhere, living his life. So, peace. Yep. Like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I thought this was going to be... I honestly thought, when it was sort of spoiled for me that Abomination is in the movie, and I knew that it was part of that, like, Fight Club sequence, I thought Shang-Chi was going to fight Abomination. That was what I expected to see. That didn't happen. He was in there for 2 minutes and then moved on, and then I was like, all right, well, that was really, really lackluster.
I mean, to be fair, Shang-Chi at that point, without the rings, could not handle Abomination.
It's still a fight I would like to see. Like, whether he gets his ass kicked or not. Like,
I feel like that would just be puny smashed and dead.
Either way.
That's why I think, like, to me, that's why I wasn't going to see that fight there. When I, like, you know what I mean? When I was coming into it, I was like, it wouldn't make sense if he doesn't have the rings. Like, when it came up at that point in the movie that they're getting to the Fight Club.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, like, there's no way he can be fighting Abomination in here. Because I was thinking, like you, going from the trailer, like, oh, that's what's going to happen. And then he gets there, and it's so early, I'm like, this wouldn't make sense.
Well, to me, I felt like that was a way to for another stepping stone to him proving that he can handle himself. If he can handle himself against Abomination, and not to mention, like, we don't know if, assuming they fought, we don't know if the fight would have made its way to the conclusion, so he might have got his ass kicked, but someone broke up the fight before Abomination finishes him off, or vice versa. I don't know. Either way, it's still a fight that I wanted to see and was disappointed when it did not happen in the movie.
Yeah, if he had some powers, I would say yeah. I would want to see it. Him just being a fist fighter, I feel like it's not a fight. Like, the Abomination is the Hulk power level here.
Yeah, I'm not,
he's not
trying to argue who's going to win one way or the other. It's just, I'm just saying it's a fight I wanted to see in the movie that left me disappointed when it didn't happen. Andy, I don't know. Did you chime in on Abomination's little cameo? What'd you think?
I tend to agree with Josh. Like, why? And what happened that he was so subservient to Wong and be like, okay, yeah, let's go back into your hole. Like, what? Like, seriously? He was just like, yeah, okay, let's do this. What is happening there?
Yeah.
It's very weird. Like, are they sort of trying to build their own, like, Suicide Squad thing? I don't really know. Or Dark Avengers,
some kind
I
of
guess,
Suicide Squad?
some sort of anti-hero group. I'm not sure.
Well, the last time
But-
we saw Abomination, he was in Shield, like a Shield detention center, right?
Did we ever see him after? What would that be? Not Queens.
Well, I know he's referenced in one of those one shots with Coulson, and you're
Yeah.
led to believe he's in Shield custody, right? I think. Now that would have been before the first Avengers movie, so between now and then, I don't know how he traded hands to be.
I must not have seen that one shot then.
I don't recall. It's been probably several years since I've watched most of them.
It's supposed to lead into I think it's Sitwell and Coulson talking about Abomination and trying to recruit for the Avengers, and more or less they try to play it where, so the end of Incredible Hulk, Tony Stark shows up to talk to General Ross.
Right.
You're under the impression he is there to talk to General Ross about the Hulk. The one shot sets it up that Coulson tells Stark to talk to Ross about Abomination. Ross hates Stark and Abomination so much that he turns the project down, so that somewhere along the line, someone wants Abomination on the team. They send Stark to talk to Ross so that that doesn't happen.
Oh, I don't know.
They're still seeing Abomination as a weapon that can be used and trained and stuff like that, even though he's been defeated and in custody.
I remember the cutscene you're talking. I don't remember the context of it, but I remember like William Hurt like there and like frazzled and like
Right.
drinking at a bar or something.
Yes. Like
out
when
almost.
Tony comes to talk to him, he never specifically says we're here to talk about the Hulk. He just says we're here to recruit for like the Avengers or something like that. And the whole context of the one shot changes the way that conversation is plays out. Where you think he's there to try to recruit the Hulk, but he's there to piss off Ross so that the Abomination doesn't get picked for the team. Either way, long story short, he, as far as I'm concerned, from the one shot, he ends up in Shield custody at that point. So how they change hands between there and now being part of the in Wong's custody somewhere. Either that or Wong's just borrowing him from Shield custody for all we know. I don't know.
To set up like what Andy mentioned, the Suicide Squad thing, the Thunderbolts was a thing that came about during Civil War in the comics. When, they needed more superpowered people to track down the heroes that weren't willing to sign on. Was like how that started.
Yeah.
And when it came to, I guess, like characters like Abomination, Red Hulk, which is Ross, if you're not aware, it was something that they turned to these bad people and said, like, how do we handle them? And in most of the cases, like Abomination, they chose not to bother, which is why it still confuses, like, me, why they would, like, Blonsky was kind of off the rails
Right.
at the end, and bringing him back in would be a mistake. Which is why I thought when they were going this route, they were going to do the Red Hulk route with Ross. But I guess we'll find out what their whole plan is eventually.
A lot of the things we've been reviewing as far as MCU related stuff lately, I feel like we do keep coming around to Dark Avengers and Thunderbolts stuff. So you're right. I think they are building a team for one of those squads, one way or the other. I don't know when we're finally going to see the assembled team together, but yeah, I think we are definitely leading that route. So we'll see where they pop up.
Yeah.
Anything to add one more time around, or we'll go to rating for everybody?
The Fight Club, did you guys notice there was another, like, sort of cameo in the Fight Club?
I don't know. You might have to tell me.
The serum or whatever that the second Mandarin uses on his soldiers.
The Extremis.
Oh, yeah.
The Extremis. There's a fighter in one of those, like, low-level cages or whatever that he was calling that had that serum in him.
You're right. Yes, that is familiar. Yes. Good call.
And you also didn't mention the second credit scene.
Oh, yes. When, Zayling is meant to, quote-unquote, dismantle the Mandarin's organization, but then we see her building it back up. So she seems to be in charge of the 10 rings now? The end credit scene says the 10 rings will return. So is this going to be another Hydra-esque organization that we're going to have to see pop up in multiple movies? Is that sort of what we're expecting?
I'm not totally convinced that they'll be all the way evil, though.
You don't think?
I mean,
I said, I'm not totally convinced of it.
Okay.
I think there's a
neutral.
chance that it's only evil when it comes to what she wants, but willing to help the good side if needed.
Okay.
Like one of those anti-hero Venom, but an organization.
Yeah, I think I don't know, my impression of it, even given the story of the movie, I still kind of ended on she's evil and this organization's evil is the takeaway that I took from it.
Did they turn her into a lasting version of the Mandarin going forward as a new version of that villain?
I don't know.
Somehow,
See, I don't know
way
if
at some point.
I guess one of the things I meant to research and never got around to is I don't know if that character in the comics turns into another villain or sides one way or the other to something in the comics. I don't know enough about her.
Almost
Same.
like the title Mandarin, it gets passed generation to generation.
That's what I was thinking, because if she's in charge of the 10 rings, that would be the Mandarin. You know what I mean? Like, she would become the Mandarin.
Right.
Maybe take on that title. And because is he ever officially called the Mandarin in this movie? I don't think he is.
I don't think he ever refers to himself as the Mandarin.
Yeah, so perhaps she takes on the title or something along those lines. Like, it could be something like that.
Yeah. Josh, what do you think?
I was actually sort of thrown off by the impression and the mood that they were giving us out of that cutscene, that stinger, because I thought that her character growth and her arc was not just that I am sad that the culture of my father and his organization growing up excluded me as a woman, and I would have loved to be in on all of the crime boss aspect of it. Not just that, but then that she was rebelling against what he and the organization were doing just as much as Shang-Chi did. So when it came back around to the end and they are showing us, okay, now she's sitting atop it, but the mood of it really does give that vibe off entirely. I was thrown off by it. So maybe there was a disconnect that I had throughout the movie about her per se. But I guess it'll, we'll just see how things move forward. I guess either way I'm okay with it, and then I'll have to just, rewatch this at some point in a different light. I will say, since we're talking about this character specifically, the actress, I know we mentioned her way at the beginning, but Meng'er Zhang, this is her first credit of anything.
Really?
This is the only thing she has. There's nothing foreign, there's no music videos, there's no short films. There is nothing. This is her first role.
That is a big role to take on in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She did very well with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That normally you see people even Simu Liu had posted a bunch of jokes about himself because he was a model in Staples.
Oh, all the
or
stock
something
names
like
he
that
was
before.
putting up was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I keep saying it, but last call for anything else, and we'll do our ratings. Nothing else? All right. Does anyone have their rating ready out of 10? I know every time I feel like I call on people, they're like, I'm not ready yet. So if anyone is ready,
I will shoot.
Volunteer. Okay.
I will shoot. This could change over time, and I don't know if this is this is not indicative of any kind of ranking of MCU in general, but this is just my feeling after the first time I've seen this, and just how good I'm feeling about this movie. I think as a film that was made, and the success of this film and the product that they put together, I think I'm giving this a 9.
Okay. Mike, you said you look like you had your rating ready. What do you think?
to me, I go 9.5. I go a little bit higher, because if you can't tell, I really enjoy like martial arts films. I watch a lot of them, and having that kind of film put into the MCU and done well is really great. And I mean, I cannot wait to watch it again. I cannot wait to see where they take the character next. Like I said, I don't really have anything bad that I feel about the movie. To me, it was incredibly well done, and it's gonna, I think, go down as one of the better ones we're gonna see.
Nice. Andy, what do you think out of 10?
Out of 10, I was going to give it a 9.
Okay. You can elaborate, or just leave it at 9? And
I think my original score was going to be an 8, but after, like, that's just coming out of the movie, like, okay, I really liked it. But
Yeah.
the more I sort of, like, digested it and talking with you guys, I'm like, oh, yeah, I like that. Oh, yeah, that was good, too. Oh, yeah, that was pretty good.
For once, we can bring someone's rating up instead of shitting on it and bringing it down.
Yeah, it just, like Mike said, like, I wouldn't say I'm like a martial arts movie connoisseur or anything like that, but I do enjoy them, and it struck those chords to me for the genre, and mixing it with Marvel was really cool, so I'd give it a solid 9.
Yeah, I think this might actually be like one of our highest reviewed Marvel movies. I'm actually looking at 9.5, I think, for this as well. I really like this, and it's just the amount of love and attention that went into this thing. Like, I think it's just fun. Again, for being 20-some movies in, 25, 26 movies into the MCU as a whole, and to still find something unique and different every time you go to see a movie. Like, I just have to applaud Marvel for that kind of thing. They know how to make their fucking movies, and it's great.
May I also add that Jess is not a big fan of, like, superhero movies.
Yeah.
Generally, and she really actually very much liked this movie. So
nice.
I think that says something, that someone who's not generally a fan of that genre, that it also impressed her.
Yeah. I'm not going to make everybody try to figure out where it fits in your ranking of MCU movies. I don't think this will crack top 5 for me, because I feel like my top 5 are very hard to crack. But this is definitely in my top 10 for sure out of the MCU movies, and it's got to be like 6 or 7, like just missing the top 5, I think, for me. But yeah, I love this movie a lot. I would gladly go see it again. I'm gonna try to see it once or twice before it leaves theaters again, because I want this movie to make $1 billion, which it's not going to because we're in a pandemic. But I feel like if we weren't in COVID times, this could have very easily hit like Black Panther money.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted this movie to be that successful, because I think it deserves it.
Did the Panther do a bill?
It did, yeah.
And this, like, honestly, with how big the opening weekend for it was, even in the whole pandemic thing, I think it very easily could have hit those numbers without a doubt. Like, it was on track during this time. I mean, it crushed any of movie that's come before it during the pandemic, correct? Like, it's not even close.
Yeah.
So, this one got people out to the theater.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's one of those movies that not a lot of movies, sustain, I guess, in their second weekend. This still made a pretty good amount of money in its second weekend, which isn't always, especially now. It seems like movies have a good opening weekend, they just fall off the radar. I think Black Widow had that problem. But, again, that might have been because it was available at home. So if you want to watch a second time, maybe people decided to watch it at home after that. I don't know. But, yeah, it's I'm hoping it sustains in the theater long enough to keep churning in some money and making some money, because I definitely think it deserves it. I'd like to see it make some money. All right, I guess that's it for us. Like I sort of talked about earlier, try to probably expect Ghost in the Shell for our next one. We'll finally get to Rewind Theater, and we'll be... How many Ghost in the Shell movies are there? Is there 3? So are we going to be 1/3 away from seeing Ian for the last time?
See, I thought there were 3 animated and 1 live.
Okay.
Ian refused the live action, if I remember correctly. He's like, no, we're not doing that.
I mean, we're going to make sure we do it just so maybe he sticks on a little bit longer.
But,
no, I think he said, like, when we get to it, he's just... as soon as he's done with the 3rd animated one, he's just gone.
All right, so either way, the stat still holds. We might be a third of the way from never seeing Ian again.
Yeah, the third animated one may be like one of those like direct-to-video sort of spiels.
I mean, at this point, I'm just counting on Ian to tell us what to watch and when. He's the one that knows this franchise. So yeah, look out for that. Hopefully, we'll do that next week, and that'll be the next one we have out. After that, I think Josh and Mike are cooking up some horror movie stuff for you guys. The inmates are going to run the nut house on that one.
We're going to talk about what's a couple movies that have come out this horror season, and what else is to come. And there's been some big changes on like releases and methods too, with specifically Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, yeah.
So
yeah,
we're going to talk about that.
Streaming, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'll have to listen in to get the details.
Yeah,
That's right.
we'll plan for that. Hopefully, sometime beginning of October. I think we're queuing that one up. Hopefully.
Okay.
Should be, yeah. Just in time for really the spooky months to start.
Yeah, I think the way that falls, it'll be like right at the end of September, beginning of October, somewhere in there when that one pops. So keep an eye out for that one as well. And that's it for us. So if you've enjoyed the show, please support us. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Be sure to give us a share on social media. You can follow or subscribe to the show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, Anchor, Stitcher. Hopefully, anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find us. As always, check us out on Facebook. Search Bry Guy and Super Friends, or go to facebook.com/BryGuySuperFriends. You can send us questions, comments, topic suggestions, and any of that stuff there. Try us on with an email, bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com. It's live. It works. I won't check it. Hit us up on Twitter @BGSuperFriends. That I will be able to see. Feel free to follow me on Twitch, Jedi Bry Guy. That's Jedi with an I, Bry with a Y. Andy, shut up. And whenever we decide to do a live show, we will probably do it there. I keep bringing it up, but I feel like what you guys don't know is we have so much technical difficulties behind the scenes. I'm very hesitant to ever do a live show again because it's going to fall apart. But if we ever get our technical issues figured out, we will try to do another live show. But yeah, that's it for us. On behalf of Andy, Josh, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, boy.